Good afternoon, everybody. As you can see, I am not in my office. I am in my car. I had an appointment and I'm squeezing this in between one and then another that I'm going to. I'm in San Diego. It's a beautiful day. You'll probably see my hair blowing. It's hot in this car, but I've got the windows down. Anyway, you can see that I put some tigers on my picture today. I figured since I didn't have the cats that are always climbing around me that I would put these up. So today I'm going to talk about, sorry for it wobbling, I'm trying to hold this on top of my steering wheel. We're going to talk about, the question is anxiety being caused by somebody in your life? I know that I often talk about genetic anxiety because that's what most of us have, but many times, sorry, I'm wobbling again. Well, not many times, but I've run into this numerous times, let's put it this way, that anxiety is caused by someone in someone's life, and it's not anything else at the root cause but another person. So I thought I'd give you two examples. Years ago, I had a friend, actually a neighbor, and I had gone through TARAP, which is a 16-week course for anxiety, and I had gotten somewhat better. Now, this was many years ago, before my husband became a doctor. And so I recommended that she try it. She had anxiety very badly, and I recommended that she try it. She was different than I was in that her symptoms were in her throat a lot, and she would carry a Pepsi or a Coke with ice, a diet one, with her all the time, and she sipped on that all day long. And she could not drive on the freeway, and there were just different things than me. So I'm going to be her support person, and she leaves and she takes all the back roads. She cannot get on the freeway. So she takes like 2 or 3 hours before the classes are to begin, and then I get in my motorhome because, as you know, I went with that motorhome everywhere. And so I would get on and I would go as fast as I could to get somewhere. Not that I speeded, but I mean, I would just go the most direct route, be there at the last minute, walk in the class. And so we were very different. Anyway, we went through the class together, and I think it helped her somewhat. It was fairly expensive back in the 70s. I think it was like $1,500 or something. So that was a lot of money back then. And so we talked back and forth. There were different crises in her life and my life. And then, oh my goodness, it was maybe 5 years ago. I hadn't seen her for quite some time, and I saw her in the grocery store. And I said, "Oh, how are you doing? What are you doing?" "Oh, I just came back from Mexico. I hiked all over. I found this guy I met, and we traveled, and we went places." And I'm like, "What happened?" And she said, I said, you had anxiety. How did you get over it? What did you do? I want to know. And she said, "Oh, my husband died." And that was the last day. Now, she should have known that she was going to have a very traumatic life, because when her husband asked her to marry him, he parked the car out on this beautiful cliff overhanging this beautiful view, and he asked her to marry him, and he said, "And if you won't, I'm driving off this cliff. You and I are going to die together." And she said yes. Can you believe that? Man, I would have said yes and run as far as I could. I would have been in hiding. Told my parents, gotten support. I don't know. She was a young girl. Anyway, she was married like 40 years before the man died. And now her life is perfect. I mean, she has no anxiety. And the other story I wanted to tell you is I have a friend, also, it was a patient friend, and she had talked to me about a suicide. She had attempted suicide maybe 15 years before, and she had gone off into the wilderness, and she'd taken this medication, and a hiker came along and found her and rescued her, called the paramedics, and she survived. Well, her life was very complicated. Terrible things were happening at the time. But anyway, she didn't die, and she went on and on and on. And then just recently, we went out to lunch together. And I said, how's your depression doing? Because I knew she'd been in and out of different doctor's offices and treatments and all kinds of things for this depression. And she said, oh, it was over the day my husband died. And I think she was married like 55 years or something like that. Now, I don't want to put this all on men. It just happens that it's girlfriends, and the girlfriends have husbands. But I'm sure it can happen to a guy also. So here's the thing. They didn't have genetic anxiety. They didn't have, well, I guess they had trauma-induced anxiety. I guess you could say that. But the minute they got the person out of their life, their anxiety stopped, and they became able to live a really normal life. So here's the deal. You have an obligation to take care of yourself. And if you are in a toxic relationship, it is your responsibility for yourself, and if you have children, for them to get out of that situation. I understand it's really hard. There are places you can go where you can be safe. There are people you can call. Family members can protect you. Whatever it is that's keeping you there. I know it's hard when you don't have the finances. But is it worth living with anxiety for the rest of your life because someone is terrible in your life? The other thing is that I've talked about this before, but you need to learn how to stand up for yourself and say no. Maybe somehow these two women wouldn't have had to have lived like that if they had been able to stand up for themselves, tell their husbands no, and demand that their relationship be better. I don't know, because if they were physically, I don't know if it was physical or verbal or what, but whatever it was their responsibility to get out, and it was also their responsibility to not have their children see this kind of behavior, because guess what? They model it. The boys model after the father, generally. It can be the opposite, and the girls model after their mother. So by staying and putting up with this, you teach your children to either be abusive or submissive. And you can set your children up to have anxiety for the rest of their life also, because they haven't learned. So that's my lecture for today. It was pretty surprising when I had lunch the other day, and this person was very happy, and the depression was completely gone. So you guys think about that. It's really important. There sometimes are outside reasons for having anxiety, and it's really not you. The only part is that it's your responsibility to figure it out and get the heck out of there, or change the situation so that you can live a happy and wonderful life. Okay, guys, have a nice day. I'm off to my other appointment. Bye.